What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Water Cooler Quarterback, where we act like we know things about football. My name is Andrew, and on today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at what is potentially the most dangerous division in the entire NFL. Yes, we are looking at the NFC East. In 2022, not a single team in this division had a losing record. The worst team was the Washington Commanders with a record of 8-1. Yes, that tie did save them and allow them to go 500 in a 17-game season. 3 of these teams made the playoffs, and Philly, of course, found themselves in the Super Bowl in Arizona. So heading into the new season, nothing is going to be free in the NFC East. Whoever wins this division will have to earn it. Since we mentioned them, let's go ahead and start off with the bottom of the division last year, the Washington Commanders. Now, they are still calling themselves the Commanders, right? They haven't changed it again? Okay, cool. Yep, still Commanders. We're good with that. Now, I mentioned that the Commanders went 8-1 last year, a perfect 500 record, and I think that plays into why a lot of people don't talk about them. They're not super great, and they're not really bad. They are super in the middle. Being 500 means that they didn't have a winning season, but they also didn't have a losing season, and I think a lot of people just don't really know what to make of that. But I think this team is a lot better than they are giving credit for. The offense has a sneaky good wide receiver trio between Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, and of course the headliner, Terry McLaurin. Scary Terry played in all 17 games the past 2 seasons. That's a tough ask for a wide receiver. He racked up over 1,000 yards in each of those campaigns and was top 10 in receiving yards in 2022, despite being on the 21st ranked passing offense. Running backs Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson should be even more effective than they were last year, now that the backfield is a little less crowded with J.D. McKissic out of the picture. Robinson had nearly 800 yards last season, and was well on pace to break 1,000 had he not missed the first 5 games of the season after being shot in the leg by 2 armed robbers prior to the year beginning. With him fully healthy heading into the new season, I'm excited to watch him tear it up in the backfield. On the other side of the ball, the Commanders' defense was quietly very, very good in 2022. 2020 was a very good year for them defensively behind standout rookie Chase Young. 2021 was a little bit rougher, and 2022 they managed to right the ship a bit despite Chase Young only playing in 3 games. Even without Young last year, this defense was ranked 7th in the NFL. So bringing him into an already good unit is just going to make their defense that much better. Now, obviously, we can't talk about the Commanders without talking about the biggest news of the offseason. Yes, pop the champagne, light the fireworks, and get ready for a parade at the Lincoln Memorial because Dan Snyder is out of here. Adios, sayonara, hasta la vista, however you want to say goodbye to this guy, I think is fitting because it seems like the entire NFL is able to breathe a huge sigh of relief that the undoubtedly worst owner of the NFL is now gone. In his place is Josh Harris, a longtime Washington football fan that wants to bring his childhood team back to its former glory. You may recognize Harris's name as the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers as well. And now Washington fans are able to root for their favorite team without feeling kind of icky about it. Their owner is no longer Dan Snyder. And it seems like with that change in ownership, just a new era, a new vibe has come to Washington. Everybody's excited for this football team again. And for the first time in a while, controversy is not what we're talking about surrounding the Washington Commanders. Speaking of the name Commanders, it is entirely possible that we see yet another name change. I personally think there will be a name change in an effort to just put the Dan Snyder era in the past, but time will tell what they end up settling on. Regardless, this is not a team that should be taken lightly. They aren't often thought of as a serious threat in the NFL, but I think this is a team that should be more highly regarded. Assuming quarterback Sam Howell can get the ball to his great wide receiver trio, or just hand it off to his running backs in the backfield, I think this offense should click, and the defense proved that they are more than enough to get the job done last year. They're a team that, like the Giants, could find themselves sneaking their way into the playoffs. So don't be sleeping on the Commanders. Hi, everybody. Please excuse the brief interruption to your regular video. I just wanted to let you all know that this season I am going to be hosting an ESPN Pick Em League. If you're not familiar with a Pick Em League, it's very simple. All you do is pick who you think is going to win each game each week. I will be making my predictions in videos coming out every week, and if you would like to pick against me and see who comes out on top by the end of the season, go ahead and follow the link in the description and use code COOLER, capital COOLER, to join the league. Everybody's going to be playing against one another, and we will be periodically checking in on who's in the lead and who's climbing up the ranks. Thanks so much for joining. Should be a lot of fun. Now let's get you back to the regular video. Now, the New York Giants are a team that showed up when I don't think a lot of people expected them to last year. There were big question marks at the quarterback position with Daniel Jones and whether or not running back Saquon Barkley would be able to return to form. But with them making it into the playoffs and even beating the Minnesota Vikings, I think New York fans were pretty satisfied with the answers they got to those questions. Saquon had another phenomenal year, totaling over 1,600 yards on the ground and through the air. Daniel Jones had over 3,200 yards passing and 700 yards with his legs. The two offensive stars showed out last year under new head coach Brian Daboll. Daboll made a name for himself in Buffalo, coaching up Josh Allen and developing him into the superstar that we know today. And he's doing the same thing with Daniel Jones. Jones had the highest passer rating of his career in the 2022 season, and did well enough to earn himself a nice paycheck and some security with the team moving forward. Now, while I've personally never been the biggest Daniel Jones fan, I can't argue with the numbers that he put up last year. He took his team to the playoffs, he won a game against the Vikings, and he did all of this without a truly dominant receiving threat. I mean, none of his pass catchers had over 800 yards last season. So in the offseason, the Giants did try to fix that problem. They went out and grabbed tight end Darren Waller from the Raiders, who, when he is healthy, is a truly dominant receiving threat. And through camp, it seems like Waller is going to be the top receiving option on this team. They also got rookie Jalen Hyatt, who seems like an absolute speed demon and is going to be a headache for opposing defenses. If Jones can develop a good chemistry with these new teammates, both he and the entire offense should be much, much better. Now, last season, the Giants' defense was pretty average. But with the defensive line that they've got, I think they should be able to perform at a higher level this year. Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, and the young guns, Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari, should have that defensive line looking scary. With the new offensive weapons and a defense headlined by their great defensive line, I think the Giants should be primed and ready for another push at the playoffs. Maybe this year it won't be the Giants getting in by the skin of their teeth, but decidedly earning their spot. Now stop me if you've heard this one before. This is the Cowboys' year. If you have said, heard, or even thought those words, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Because for the last 20 plus years, it has in fact not been their year. What seems like a running joke at this point has been going on for a very long time. Every time the Cowboys seem primed and ready to go for a deep playoff push or even a chance at the Lombardi, they always come up short. Heck, I wasn't even alive the last time the Cowboys won a championship. Owner Jerry Jones has been very vocal about wanting to win and wanting to win now. He's not getting any younger, and he definitely wants to see another trophy added to their display case. So I'll go ahead and ask the question once more. Is this the Cowboys' year? Well, let's go ahead and try and answer that question. On offense, they've got Dak Prescott, a quarterback who I think is better than he's given credit for. He's a guy that can certainly win you some games just off his arm talent alone, but he's also a guy that can lose you some games off that arm talent going a little haywire. Despite his ability to throw up one or two "what the heck are you doing" type balls every game, I do have faith in him being a leader on this team. If he can rein in some of those mistakes, I have no doubt that he can lead a truly elite Cowboys offense. I mean, just last year, the Cowboys were a top 3 offense with Dak's interceptions. Imagine what they can do without those mistakes. The rest of the offense is filled with stars, and I don't just mean on their helmets. Wide receiver CeeDee Lamb had a career year totaling 1,300 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns. Tony Pollard had a breakout season as well as the backup running back. He totaled 1,400 scrimmage yards and 12 touchdowns. I repeat, as the backup. Now that he's fully in charge of that backfield, now that he's the premier back, I'd be scared to see the type of numbers he can put up. Brandon Cooks gets added to this receiving core, and Michael Gallup should be back at full speed after spending a lot of last season recovering from injury. The O-line is absolutely stacked, provided the team can work things out with Zach Martin, and all in all, I truly don't see a hole on this offense. And the same goes for the defense. Trayvon Diggs got a big contract extension and should continue playing corner at an elite level. Leighton Vander Esch remains with the team and should continue to play well at the linebacker spot, and DeMarcus Lawrence should continue to eat on that defensive line alongside new rookie Mozzie Smith. So yeah, that defense should be really, really good. But the piece that takes them to the next level, the piece that takes them over the top, is Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is arguably the best defensive player in the entire league. He can rush the passer like nobody's business. He can stop the run, and he's effective in pass coverage. He's had at least 13 sacks every year that he's been in the league. And that's without being a full-time pass rusher. Now that he's converted to edge, I cannot wait to see his sack total by the end of the year. So is this the Cowboys' year? Well, it certainly could be. The team is amazing, and I have no doubt that they'll be making the playoffs. How far they go? Well, that's up in the air as it always is. Ultimately, if they fizzle out and fall short of the NFC Championship game, I'd be worried about Mike McCarthy's head coaching job. Defensive coordinator Dan Quinn could easily be a head coach on any number of other NFL teams. But I think Jerry Jones wanted to keep him around as an insurance policy. If this season doesn't go the way Jerry wants it, I think Dan Quinn is next in line for a head coach. Finally, we come to the NFC's Super Bowl representative, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, in my estimation, are head and shoulders above all but maybe two teams in the entire NFC. A high-flying offense and a truly dominant, stifling defense makes for one of the most balanced, well-rounded rosters in the entire NFL. And this offseason, they only got better. Now, Super Bowl hangovers are a real thing. But if I'm a Philly fan, I wouldn't be too worried about it. Because on offense, they've got Jalen Hurts at quarterback. He established himself as one of the best in the league last year and was paid accordingly to the tune of $255 million. His passing improved, and along with his rushing ability, he totaled over 4,400 yards and 35 touchdowns. His breakout season was largely due to the acquisition of wide receiver A.J. Brown, who likewise showed the league he was one of the best. Brown and his receiving partner Devontae Smith totaled over 2,700 yards between the two of them, and 18 touchdowns. The running back room was a little bit crowded between Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott, but they were extremely effective, landing in the top 5 of rushing offenses. And a lot of that rushing success comes from having the best offensive line in the entire league, held together firmly in the middle by Jason Kelce. Though some of the offense like Zach Pascal and Miles Sanders have departed for other teams, other additions like DeAndre Swift and Olamide Zaccheaus should make up for that production lost. And on defense, the Eagles clearly have got a type, and that is anybody from Georgia. 3 of their 7 picks in this last draft came from Georgia. And I gotta give props to the drafting strategy of just taking guys that were really good in college and played at a championship level and just picking them up and putting them in the NFL on the same team. That's really smart. The Philadelphia Eagles currently have Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, and Keely Ringo all on their defense, all of which come from Georgia. And that's not even mentioning the other elite players on the defense: Fletcher Cox, Hassan Reddick, James Bradbury, and Darius Slay. This defense is going to be one of the best in the entire NFL. They were top 10 in almost every important defensive category last year, and they were 3rd in yards allowed. I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. But it must be pointed out that the Eagles did lose both their offensive and defensive coordinators in the offseason. Shane Steichen has made his way to Indianapolis to work with Anthony Richardson, and Jonathan Gannon is looking to turn things around in Arizona. Having your coaches poached is an unfortunate byproduct of being a really good team. But I think despite these coaching losses, this team will still continue to succeed at the highest level. So the NFC East is a monster of a division. Even the worst team did pretty well last year. And with every team seemingly getting better, how's it all going to shake out? Well, in 4th place, I'm going to have to put the New York Giants. While I think they still have a shot at the playoffs, even from way down here in the division, I think the other teams are just going to be that much better. And if you're a Giants fan, please don't take this as a slight on your team. In just about any other division in the NFC, the Giants have a real shot at winning it. They just unfortunately find themselves in the NFC East, which, as we've discussed, is an absolute gauntlet, and I don't see them placing higher than third. I do think, though, that third place belongs to the Washington Commanders. A team hindered by poor quarterback play last year now hopes that Sam Howell can provide some stability at the position. With a strong defense and a criminally underrated offense, I think this team could be very, very good. And if nothing else, the vibe just feels different in Washington. I would love for the first year that Dan Snyder is out of the league, he has to watch his team make it to the playoffs. That would just be so sweet. In second place, I'm going to put the Dallas Cowboys. And I think even the most die-hard Cowboys fan can look at the landscape of this division and say, yeah, we're playing for second. They won't admit it, but in their heads, I think they know. Dallas is an awesome team, and I can't wait to see what they do in the postseason, but for now, I just don't see them surpassing the top dogs of the division, the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, the Eagles will take first place in the division yet again, because they're a team that seemingly just has no weaknesses. The quarterback, the running backs, the offensive line, the receiving weapons, the defensive line, the secondary, and the linebackers, all elite. Simply put, they deserve to be in the Super Bowl again. So let's take a look at some storylines out of the NFC East. In Washington, I'm particularly excited to watch Brian Robinson tear it up in the backfield with a full season of opportunities. He's got such a cool comeback story, and I'm very excited to see what he can do. The story to look out for in New York is the effect that Darren Waller and Jalen Hyatt are going to have on that passing offense. I'm super excited to see Daniel Jones with some true receiving threats and think that they could pay dividends for the New York Giants. And I am excited to watch Micah Parsons just go absolutely nuts in Dallas as a full-time edge rusher. We're looking at a guy that truly could be chasing after Michael Strahan's 22.5 sacks in a single season record. If I were that record, I'd be looking out for Micah Parsons. And in Philly, I want to see these guys come out the gate hot. I don't want to see a Super Bowl hangover. I want them to just play at the level that I know they can right out the gate. And I want to see Jalen Hurts maintain an MVP level caliber all throughout the season. Because even in a league with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow, I think Jalen Hurts could take home that award. Well, thank you all so much for watching another episode of Water Cooler Quarterback. This, of course, is the second to last division that we will be going through to wrap up this series. All that's left is next week's AFC East. If you've liked this content, be sure to drop a like on the video. If you've got any thoughts on the NFC East, be sure to leave them in the comments and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when these videos are coming out. I've got a lot of fun stuff planned for once the season starts, and I can't wait to show it to you all. But until then, my name is Andrew, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.